This is Princess Mononoke. This is also Princess Mononoke, generated by AI. Anyone who thinks that this AI-generated Princess Mononoke is better than this frame from the original motion picture animation Princess Mononoke is leaning on a perspective that is void of empathy, context, or technical understanding.
I think to a very objective person, if you're just going to compare, which I was doing, compare the art styles, the old Miyazaki art style to that one, I think it's pretty clear that one image is superior in terms of overall quality.
Hey, y'all don't mind if we start with some drama, do you? You see, I'm contractually obligated to make a video about AI art, but after 3 years and countless drafts, I finally found an old-fashioned YouTube beef to help us kind of get the medicine to go down.
So what are we talking about when we talk about intelligence? Is it just natural ability? Processing power? Practice? Is there anything objective about intelligence? I think of intelligence as nothing more or less than the ability to take in new information, and then the resiliency to be able to admit that you were wrong about what you thought before. It's the capacity not only to iterate actions over and over, but to learn from them. So when I'm talking about AI, I'm talking about a machine's attempt to imitate human learning. This video is not an attempt to address the functionality and the financial value of AI. My opinion there is pretty simple, and it really hasn't changed since AI really exploded. The way it's been developed is bad, and is being rolled out in a way that is going to make the entire world rue the day we let racists, frauds, and tech ghouls set our cultural and economic priorities. This video is not a consideration of data centers, of non-consensual surveillance. It's not focused on investment, bubbles, or stock fraud. I'm not going to be spending a lot of time talking about vibe coding or AI hallucinations. These are all really important topics, and if you're inclined at all to learn about these things, I really think you should find some of the other content creators who are experts in them. I recommend Ed Zitron over at Better Offline and Where's Your Ed At? And then for more technological experiments, I recommend you check out what Ben Jordan has been doing. They can see the writing on the wall, and they really have more interesting things to say than me. This video is an attempt to look at how Gen AI affects human creativity.
Right around when I should have graduated high school, my family forked over a lot of money to send me to a research foundation called the Johnson O'Connor Research Foundation. It's supposed to be one of the more credible and scientifically backed ways to test somebody's aptitudes, like the ASVAB, but for big business. Going into the center, one of the things that I was told was that everybody's different, and I should expect some parts of the test to be extremely easy and other parts to be very difficult.
Our aptitude testing program is based on the simple idea that if you know what your natural abilities are, you can make better decisions about school and about work. Many career assessments, you have a bunch of questions that you answer. Do you think you're good at this? Do you think you're good at working with people? Those assessments mirror your answers back to you. This is objective. Performance is measured against other people, so objectively, you are better at this than other people are.
We actually help people identify their natural talents and instruct them on how to use those talents.
I came in for testing because I had moved from one job to the next, wasn't really happy anywhere.
I didn't really know what to major in and had no idea what I wanted to do after college, so I was hoping to get some sort of direction.
I knew I had been interested in coding. I had been thinking about changing careers, and I was afraid to. The testing results showed me that it probably is something that I would be interested in doing. It made a lot of sense.
I was excited to hear that actually those aren't my natural aptitudes, and so no wonder I was unhappy.
The tests are objective. It actually gives you a block to put together or some pins to move as quickly as you can. You get a picture of what your natural approach is to work.
We put all the pieces together and direct people toward career paths. We never tell people what they can or can't do, but more what will most likely come naturally to them.
The testing experience itself was pretty fun. Some of the tasks were tedious, and that was just because, those given tasks weren't my aptitude. I knew I was pretty good with numbers and some analytical skills, but I just established the notion that I could do that. It sort of gave me confidence.
I learned that I was strong in both spatial aptitude and also auditory aptitude. They seemed disparate. And then later, when I heard about people who are acoustic consultants, which is what I do now, designing concert halls, theaters, opera houses, I realized, oh wow, that really uses both of those aptitudes.
I have high ideaphoria. I am a group influencer. So I was thinking about going into education and becoming a teacher. My aptitudes will definitely help me out with things like that.
We've been around for almost 100 years. We do research on aptitudes. We study human ability, human potential.
The beauty of aptitudes is you don't have to work at them. If you're put in an environment where that aptitude is going to be challenged or accessed, it just happens.
These aptitudes are very stable over time, so you can keep using this knowledge once you get this assessment throughout the rest of your life, anytime you have a decision to make.
I came in for testing about a year ago when I was almost 60 years old. For about 25 years, I've worked at various magazines. I'm going to be giving screenwriting a shot in the next chapter of my life.
It made a huge impact on me to get this insight about myself. It helped me improve my business.
Having these test results helps me be a more empathetic coworker.
Even in subjects that I wasn't so strong in, my aptitudes helped me get better scores.
It really helped me figure out where and when I need to ask for help, how I can best spend my time professionally and personally.
It just set a precedent for myself just to know I do have a future in that career.
I sure wish I had come and done this when I was 25 years old.
When you do things you're good at and you enjoy doing them. The notion that you would know your sun sign and your blood type and not your aptitudes, but I think it's because people don't know about this.
I was hired based on how I scored on these tests, and I have loved my work for over 30 years.
I still have the same job I had right out of college 15 years later, and that's true of virtually none of my peers.
It told me what direction I should maybe think about taking, and I did take it, and it's changed my life.
Going to the testing center, I was told that one of the things I should keep in mind was that everybody's abilities are different, and some of the parts of the test are going to be very simple, where others are going to be more likely pretty challenging. But as the test continued, I started to worry. You see, none of the tests seemed particularly easy to me, and some of the sections seemed downright impossible. After 2 days of memory tests, reasoning, and physical dexterity tests, and mostly trying not to ogle the gorgeous test administrator, I finally received my results. They were kind of depressing. I was exactly good at 3 things, and was otherwise kind of a moron. You see, most people's aptitudes fall into the 60 or 70 percentile with things like verbal number recall, spatial reasoning, like puzzles, short-term memory. I was below 50% in everything. A few categories were so low that I was disabled. The only exceptions were foresight, critical thinking, and inductive reasoning, but I was in the 85 to 95 percentile for all of the rest. I remember looking at that gorgeous test administrator as she tried so hard to interpret the results in a way that didn't sound depressing. The test says you've got a great ability to solve problems and interpret data about people. You'd be a great CEO. Right, but I'm 18 and I don't have a high school diploma, and I just got fired from AT&T, so any job that's achievable? She was scraping the bottom of the barrel looking for good news. You'd be an excellent detective? I looked down. My observation skill is less than 90% of people. It's some of the worst. She goes, well, maybe you could be a detective who stays at home and has other people give him the clues. Ma'am, that's a consulting detective, and it's a made-up job invented by Sherlock Holmes. What are you talking about? Other than humble bragging, what was the point of that story? Well, first, it was to establish my own bona fides as a problem solver and to be a little bit vulnerable, because if I'm going to be showing other people's vulnerability, I wanted to do it too. But also, and probably more importantly, if we're going to talk about artificial intelligence, we have to talk about what counts as intelligence, or even more importantly, ability. So back in 2023, I wrote this short piece about my expectations and experience with AI. In some ways, it shows a naivete about how the technology develops, but I think some of its wider observations are only more apparent as the technology has spread like a viral contagion. It's essentially become one of the structural pillars of our economy, and it's really easy to look back in hindsight and say that it didn't work. But it's a little harder to go back in time and say you could see it didn't work from the beginning.
Because I'm going to be showing some other YouTubers' content, I'm going to include my own older content that talks about AI. It's going to be a little bit different in format. I used AI to try to animate it. Spoiler, the only part that actually got used was the lip syncing function. So, roll that beautiful bean footage. I've used ChatGPT to draft the last 6 versions of this script, and I have just one question. What the hell is this supposed to be? I mean, sure, I guess it's an interesting tool. It's handy for summarizing information, but even then, you've got to read these bastards closely to make sure they're not slipping up factually. I'm sure that's going to do wonders for our online misinformation supply. It was bad enough when it happened on purpose. Now we got to watch out for our computers doing it on accident? Okay, as a replacement for original ideas, this device is about as credible as a chatbot in an old AOL server. To which all of you Chads are probably asking, well, what's a chatbot and what's an AOL server? Were there not chatbots on AOL? I don't know. I wasn't allowed on AOL. I was a message board kid. Was not Ex Machina, but mostly they were being used to recreate our 2001 I Don't Think So Dave fantasies. Or, if you were naughty, to bait the robot into saying something bad. This was great sport in the aughts. ChatGPT has the same problem as those old chatbots. Grammar is just not an accurate representation of how people communicate. Even that sentence I used earlier, this was great sport. Great sport is like this old-timey turn of phrase, but I think it's fun. Okay, it's a kind of pretension of all the web users who thought it was the pinnacle of humor to get a chatbot to say a slur. But the phrase, this was considered a great sport, it just doesn't communicate that in the same way. While it's grammatically correct, it doesn't feel natural or familiar, so what might be acceptable in a program, in the real world, lacks all soul. We don't connect with the grammatically correct, we connect with the human, a word often used synonymously with the word mistake. But to give the devil his due, most writing on the internet also does lack soul. Blogs, that medium much maligned of mommy blogs and oversharing that used to hold the internet together, has been replaced by corporate freelancers so criminally mistreated and underpaid that to ask them to provide soul seems kind of perverse. We can't ask for quality, all we need is more content. The algorithm demands more, and eventually, this capitalist machine supplies a tool for every need. I'm sure this is going to have totally normal and not catastrophic, nor potentially world-ending uses we haven't even thought of. Anyway, here's a sonnet by ChatGPT.
In cyberspace, where pixels reign supreme, the culture of the web doth rise and fall. With each new trend, a fleeting digital dream that captures hearts, then fades away in thrall. Memes and hashtags, viral videos too, all spread like wildfire but quickly expire. Their moment in the spotlight, all too few. As newer, fresher content fans the fire, oh, how the internet doth foster change, yet leaves behind a trail of disposable debris, like ashes from a flame, scattered and strange, forgotten in the rush of novelty. So let us not be swayed by fickle trends, but seek out deeper truths that never end.
When it comes to art, I've always kind of been a slow learner. As a kid, after getting kicked out of a Hobby Lobby art class for breaking down sobbing after I couldn't figure out how to draw a box, I remember I would daydream that one day there would be this like magical machine. Maybe it'd be like a pen or a pencil, but it could be like attached to a headset that could take your visualized images, and it would do the work of creating an image on a piece of paper, like some kind of a magic polygraph. I wanted a device that could allow me to jump out of the rut created by my shaky and clumsy hands and give me the ability to put my images that were in my mind onto paper. But even then, I had second thoughts and doubts. Would that art really count as my own? Could any device, no matter how accurate, really capture the fleeting images that make up my own imagination? Wouldn't it just create another skill gap to overcome? You see, I think the gap between our creativity and the effort needed to embody that creativity is basically the key hurdle for the human imagination. Anyone can see and dream of a beautiful sunset. But who among us has taken the time to get the experience with manually manipulating pigments or digital code to really represent that light? How did they get that experience? How much time and effort were poured into countless shitty little brown sunsets that barely warranted a nod of recognition? Is art really some sort of a luxury, only able to be appreciated by those lucky few who don't have to work for a living? Or, in a world of AI, is art anything beyond a copy of a copy of a copy, just another product to be manufactured and consumed?
I've seen a lot of young people have emotional meltdowns when they couldn't learn something. I've seen a lot of people who either had attention deficit issues or issues with sensory perception really get overwhelmed by the idea of not learning something naturally or quickly. I don't know why that is, and I'm certainly not a psychologist, but I do have a small theory of what might go into it. Learning can be very embarrassing. It's a very vulnerable situation to admit that you don't know something or that you cannot do it. The vulnerability of being open about your failings and about your limitations is vital to the act of learning. But it is an extremely vulnerable position to put someone in, especially if they already feel like an outsider or are, for some reason, investing what they're learning with a lot of value. All that to say, learning shouldn't be about shaming someone for not knowing or not being able to do something. One of the best ways I have found to learn anything is through play. Familiarity with the rules, with the forms of any form of art or media or material is very important, but it is through the act of play that we become the most familiar, that we move beyond mere fluency and enter into a real natural comprehension of anything. And play cannot exist in the same space as shame. Which brings me to the website Draw a Box, a fascinating little website that definitely didn't pay me to make this video. In fact, I might be paying them to get some critiques. It's a great little website put together by a Reddit user by the name of Uncomfortable. Draw a Box exists as a combination of great video analysis and theory about mark making and spatial comprehension, but it's also a lot of very clear drills to help you develop the physical and mechanical dexterity necessary to add in those theoretical principles. Basically, there are a lot of very clear instructions and even clearer drills. And if you do those things, you will find yourself naturally doing the second half of Draw a Box, which is free drawing, what I would think of as playing. It is in that space of play, of low standards execution, that allows us to really learn beyond just getting discouraged after your first initial obstacles. So, in an attempt to kind of destigmatize my own process, I'm going to show you some of the exercises that I've done for Draw a Box. I'm going to talk about them and explain how they've worked for me so far. I hope you enjoy it. Like I say, it's a rainy day video. Okay, first off, I'm going to show you some of the drills that I did for Draw a Box. It's worth noting that these drills are supposed to be all about accuracy and about consistency of the lines. Ghosted mark making is what I'm encouraged to do, which is only to make a mark if you are completely committed to that line, avoiding stray lines and chicken scratching. I didn't do any of that. This is chicken scratched as all hell. However, you can see some progress in some of the marks as you go through them. The main thing, though, is to move past the drills, which are pretty mediocre, and into a brief look at the exercises. For my first couple drafts of exercises, I tried things like drawing hands or drawing like rough thumbnail characters from a book series I was reading. None of those worked out very well, though some of them did show me some progress in my mark making. I was able to at least represent an interesting face, even if it certainly wasn't anything like what it was supposed to look like.
For those of you who've stuck around this long, you're probably asking me, where's the drama? You promised me Princess Mononoke drama. I will deliver on the Princess Mononoke drama. To really get into it, I wanted us to first begin with a nice framework of what I think about art in general and AI in particular. Then we're gonna pivot into these two great YouTubers. Who are the two YouTubers? Well, I am glad you asked. The first one is Shadiversity. Now you might already know Shadiversity because he's been around forever. He was one of the first sword tubers to really pop off here on YouTube. That means he made like foam sword fighting, LARP content, sword analysis, fantasy fighting stuff, nerdy stuff, but all very harmless and pretty neat. I followed him for years because of that, until finally having to unfollow him after he pivoted towards more right-wing culture commentator stuff. At the same time, the other YouTuber is named Jazza. Jazza I discovered whenever I got into art because he's huge in the art YouTube scene. What I found out was that these two guys, despite having adjacent but very different approaches, they're brothers. So that makes the tension about how they react to AI take on a new color, a new shape to it. So hopefully that kind of family drama will keep the story going. Another reason I waited this long to cut to their own material is because I wanted to show you guys my own absolutely embarrassing art before I showed you Shad's video on why he likes AI art. I do not want it to come off like I think that my art is better or even frankly as good as Shad's. I can barely do doodles and he can illustrate a full character. No hate to the man. However, I do have some disagreements, shall we say, with his own estimation of his abilities and his ability to estimate art in general. So, as we dive through this, I want you to keep in mind the art that you've already seen, as well as the difference between Jazza and Shad.
Alrighty. My artistry is actually at a professional level.
And we'll give him like martial arts. You weren't like Olympic level
This is
martial arts.
no, I'm not at that. I think artistry should be at 2 and writers 2.
Okay. I think
this
we
is my
need to
honest
decide.
opinions.
You can get 2 in writer.
Yeah,
when
I'd
you
agree
become
with
published.
that. Thing is,
Okay.
no, I've had agents accept my work.
It's not the same.
No,
It's not- it isn't the same.
That is said with a huge amount of ignorance in regards to the publishing and writing
I'm
industry.
sure it is.
So
I'm sure it is.
It is profoundly ignorant, that comment.
Right. But the thing is, we gave him 2 on artist because it's his full-time
This
job.
has become
and he
a
gets
really
paid for it.
loaded episode.
I'm not saying
We're not
writing
even
is
going to get to
bad.
play.
I'm not.
Joss, you need to be very honest.
If you were to
about
get
my
2
level
If I'm
as
going
an
to be
artist.
very honest, I love you. I'd say a point in artist.
Well, no, because then you should get a point first. We have our strengths and weaknesses, and you know what my strengths are in artistry, and I'm easily at a professional standard.
I would be willing to give you 2 points in writer. I'll put it that way.
Art easily is on 2 points. I'm at a professional standard, and you know that.
I'm respectfully disagree.
Your strengths are expression, easily
We
expression
don't need
and
to-
colour.
we don't need
But
this
my
to-
strengths are anatomy and character.
Absolutely, you're a skilled artist. By
Hang on,
an
no,
artist
no.
writer.
So you're just giving it to me to try and satisfy me.
Somewhat, because you won't stop arguing. So
No,
that's
no,
okay.
no.
Because it's actually not supposed to be you who decides the outcome, but you're not letting that happen. So I say I'm just being honest.
My camera froze.
But my strengths are anatomy and character.
Absolutely, you're a skilled artist.
My strengths are anatomy and character.
Anatomy and character. Anatomy and character.
I make a lot of content. It's my job, but also at my core, I'm an artist. So my motivation is to create things that I'm passionate about in the videos I produce. At every possible opportunity, I try and incorporate art and my passion and motivations into my content. But on very rare occasions, I make art that I don't make for YouTube views or subscribers.
Art is very important to me. Ever since I was a very young child, my imagination would run wild, creating characters and stories and worlds. And art has always been a profoundly important part of me bringing those worlds into greater reality. It started off with drawing, and that's a passion I still have to this day, creating new characters and depicting the worlds and stories I love to immerse myself in. It was a great revelation to me later on in life. It wasn't actually the physical, mechanical movement of drawing that I was actually enjoying, but it was the creation of something. There was some relaxation found in the methodical kind of movements of scraping a pencil along paper, but the true artistic satisfaction was in what I was creating. Otherwise, why wasn't I just drawing straight lines on a single piece of paper forever? But I do understand that there are some people that fall in love with certain mediums, but I still feel the greatest satisfaction comes from this process of creation. And then I discovered a new medium where I could depict these worlds and characters to even greater reality: writing. And since then I've become a published author, and writing is one of the great passions of my life, as still is drawing and art. My artistic pursuits have just broadened. I love to explore different mediums and tools that help bring my artistic visions into greater reality in different ways. And I've always appreciated tools that help me achieve certain things that I wouldn't be able to do otherwise. I love the look of inked art on top of my pencil drawings, making the lines more bold and to stand out and pop from the page. Yet it was also a very stressful experience because there was also a greater chance of smudges, and I even had other images ruined when small bits of water, just droplets, fell on the page, making the ink bleed. So, when having access to a scanner and being able to scan my hand-drawn images onto a computer, where I could digitally ink my images, solved all the issues and problems I was having with hand inking. It enabled me to do it more precisely, faster, with the ability to erase mistakes and also make later edits. It was a phenomenal tool that helped bring my art to the next level, and I never had considered it cheating, or that I was losing some type of artistic pursuit in not wanting to pursue physical hand-inked art. This is the exact same experience I had with coloring. I never particularly enjoyed working with physical mediums, painting, pencils, pastels. The same stresses existed for mistakes, but that wasn't to say I never did it or that I couldn't find great satisfaction in making a hand-colored piece of art. But discovering digital coloring fixed all the problems that I was finding with hand coloring myself, and enabled me to produce much higher quality art than I was able to do without it. Technology enabled me to produce much higher quality artworks, cutting out much of the tedious processes, and enabled me to express my artistic vision faster, easier, to a higher level of quality. So as you can imagine, any technology that grants this same benefit, I am very interested in, hence my interest in AI art generators. Many people view this new technology as something that robs people of their artistic pursuit and potential. What I see is the exact opposite. Indeed, far from robbing artistic expression, when you approach it with intent, having a specific vision in your mind that you want to achieve, it can enable you to bring that vision into a level of reality, detail, and beauty than you might ever have been able to do without it. But when you combine other artistic talents and abilities that you cultivate in other mediums, that enables you to make the very best art with this technology. And I'm not kidding in this. I am an artist. I developed a very keen eye for proportion and detail, and I have applied that in every artistic pursuit in whatever medium I'm using. There are many people who use AI art who have seen my images that I've made with this technology and have literally asked, how on earth do I produce these results? They see a difference in the quality that I'm able to achieve versus the quality that they have been able to achieve. And the answer is, I'm applying every single talent I've developed in multiple mediums in my pursuit and love of art to this medium as well. AI art generators are not a replacement of artists. In actual fact, it can be one of the most profound and incredible tools for artists. Artists will simply be able to make the very best AI art. But when that is done, it's actually not AI art. The AI art generator is not doing all the work, far from it. When I make my AI art, I am in full control with a specific vision in my mind that I'm working towards. And as a result, this isn't made by just the AI, it's made by me using the tool of AI to achieve a specific vision that I have in my mind. This is AI-assisted art. Just like Photoshop is digitally assisted art, although it includes many AI processes that enables people to cut corners, make shortcuts, achieve goals much easier and quicker, that many people don't want to acknowledge that they are using in their own digital art, but criticizing the exact same type of use and methodology that is actually present in AI art generation.
So to demonstrate this process, we are going to be making an image of one of my favorite fictional characters, Supergirl. I had a big crush on Supergirl growing up and have a lot of nostalgic connection for this character. And what I love to do is to depict my wife as Supergirl because that's who she is. She is my Supergirl. She's the most beautiful creature in the world to me. And so I love making art of my wife. She is my muse, and I particularly love depicting her in the way that I see her. People don't see what I...
Earlier this year, I spent weeks on an oil painting for my wife's birthday. It's a recreation of one of her favorite photos of her favorite horse in a sweet moment interacting with our son. I didn't film creating this piece because that wasn't my motivation. My motivation was to create something that I knew I would be proud to give her, and in which I could push myself to the limits of my personal abilities to give my wife something that she loves. That's harder than it sounds because I have painted a painting for her before. I did try and hit two birds with one stone, admittedly, and make content with it too. This is about like 8, 9, 12 years ago. She was honest enough to tell me that she didn't really like it. She's a straight shooter. She's an honest critic. Hey, do you want to come check this out? My wife has stepped in. Tell me if they look similar.
That's pretty good.
Not bad?
That's pretty
How's that
good,
review?
especially for your oil painting skills, which are mediocre at best.
The point is, I really wanted her to like this painting. I poured my heart into it and I stayed up late and I fought for time to work on it, and when she saw it, she wept with joy. And not just because she considered it to be technically good, but because she knew that I put everything into it. She knew that it was the best painting I had ever made, and I made it for an audience of one. I made it for her, and about something that I knew she cared about, and she knew I cared about making it my absolute best. She knows how little time I have outside of work, and whatever time I do have, I usually dedicate to our family. So she knew I would have had to work my guts out to make something just for her. Here's the same photo, recreated artistically through various AI models. The results vary in technical output and stylistic interpretation. Some people might consider some of these better than the one I made. But are they art? No, I cannot truly believe that any of them are truly art. Sure, they can be referred to as an artwork on the surface level, but there is no prompt that can replace my artwork and the context and the emotional impact that gives it its meaning. Even the quality and technical outcome has value based on the context of my skill and creative journey and limitations.
I believe AI art is art because humans are using it and because it is referencing humans. It is built by humans, it is examining and referencing humans, and it is in the hands of humans to use.
No, me from the past, AI is not built by human artists. It's built by software engineers and coders who are largely employed by corporations that are motivated by market competition and capital investments. And at the end of the day, whatever power the AI models are capable of, whatever potential they can reach, is fundamentally built on and empowered by the hard work of the human originators of the data that it's trained on, which was gathered without consent and without disclosure. I believe AI art is built on the back of the stolen work of human creators and is primed for the exploitation of copyrighted characters, intellectual property, celebrities, and public figures. If you want to argue that AI art isn't built on theft and isn't a damaging force, then, well, please do so with Martin Luther King's daughter, who, if you can imagine, has had the horrific displeasure of seeing AI-generated videos that mock, belittle, and taint her father's legacy.
I had a dream that we are not judged by the color of our skin, but by the clarity of our diamond. And shine!
Martin Luther King. Even if you can somehow convince her, you'll be hard-pressed to convince the plaintiffs of major lawsuits, both settled and ongoing, centered around the endless plagiarism enabled by these models. But regardless of whether or not AI art is built on theft, can it still be called art? Be valued as art? Is an AI artist truly an artist? Because they argue that their input shaped the outcome. Therefore, they are the artists. To further illustrate, here's another example. This is Princess Mononoke. This is also Princess Mononoke, generated by AI. Anyone who thinks that this AI-generated Princess Mononoke is better than this frame from the original motion picture animation Princess Mononoke is leaning on a perspective that is void of empathy, context, or
Studio Ghibli.
I think to a very objective person, if you're just going to compare, which I was doing, compare the art styles, the old Miyazaki art style to that one, I think it's pretty clear that one image is superior in terms of overall quality.
AI Princess Mononoke is 100% unoriginal, derived from someone else's design and generated from a foundation of other human artists' hard work for which they were not credited or compensated, and the result is technically flawed and uninteresting. Worst of all, it strips the original character of her soul simply to reimagine her as a sexualized pin-up girl with come-hither eyes. A comparison like this completely misses the point of art and ignores the context of a single frame out of over 144,000 hand-drawn and hand-colored frames of animation cells that make up the whole piece of art, which is Princess Mononoke, the revolutionary animated film, which must also be appreciated within the context of the limitations and the era in which it was created, for the same reason that this and this and this must always be considered groundbreaking, not because of how the outcome compares to what you can fart out in your spare time on Midjourney or Sora 2, but because of the genuine revolutionary impact these artworks have had on art and technology and society as a whole. Producing AI art no more makes you an artist than playing Call of Duty makes you a soldier.